Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christine. I like to read dark and disturbing things, and today we are going to be taking a look into the future to see what is coming out in summer of 2025 as far as horror is related. I've got 35 books to talk about, so let's just get into it. First year that I have really been taking a look at what's coming out in the future, and it's really been helping me because I can kind of get an idea for what I'd like to read and then place holds on my library, which is kind of like shopping without spending any money, which I kind of like. So instead of getting swept up in what everybody else thinks about a book, I'm able to place a hold for most of these at my library, especially the ones that are like traditionally published books. And then I know that they're going to be waiting for me when they come out or pretty soon thereafter because I put a hold on them ahead of time. So it's just a fun way to kind of curb my shopping, support my local library, and it gives me the freedom to DNF books without feeling bad about it. If I purchase a book and I have to DNF it, I usually feel really guilty about it. So this way has been working for me so far this year, and I'm going to continue doing it. So we are talking about the books that are coming out in July, August, and September, and then I will do a video in 3 months for the rest of the year. I've got 35 books to talk to you guys about. I had to even take some out just to get that number down. So I'm going to try to be very concise and talk about these very quickly so we're not here all day. No one wants to hear me yap for that long. So let's talk about July. The 1st of July, we have a book called My Ex the Antichrist by Craig DeLuey. I'm going to be honest with you, this one appeals to me more because of the author. Some of these will be because of an author I previously liked, and some of them will be because I really like the sound of the synopsis. But this one kind of seems like a rock and roll cult horror book, which I feel like there have been several that have come out that I haven't read yet, so I'm not really sure if I like this trope or not, but we are going to give it a try. Probably with some of the ones I own already, like Schrader's Chord or one of the Brahm books that came out recently. So this is about a punk band that is in its peak when one of the band members confesses to a murder. It's 10 years later, and the person who has confessed has finally decided to do an interview, as does the rest of the band. By the way, I'm looking on Goodreads, and there's currently a giveaway for this book. If you want to get in on that in the next couple weeks, you can try to win a copy of this book. I've never actually won a giveaway on Goodreads, but you never know, it could be my first try. The second book coming out is on the 5th of July, and it is called The Unkillable Frank Lightning by Josh Rowntree. I've never heard of this author before, read anything by him, but this one sounds like so much fun. This is considered a horror Western, and usually like something that says Western would not appeal to me at all. But it says that this is Frankenstein is vividly reimagined in the Wild West. With equal parts of Cormac McCarthy, Mary Shelley, and Stephen Graham Jones, Rowntree deftly navigates the terrible aftermath of love and death. So this one says that Catherine's husband died in an attack, and consumed by grief, she used her skills to resurrect him. So we're already kind of flipping the script. We have the female doing the resurrecting, but he lost his soul after the reanimation and disappeared after a killing spree. Unable to face her failure and murderous consequences, Catherine fled to grieve. It's now 25 years later, and she has decided she must make things right. She travels back to Texas with a pair of hired killers ready to destroy Frank. But Frank has remade himself as the unkillable Frank Lightning, traveling with the Wild West show. Come on, that sounds so campy and fun. I can't wait to read that one. On the 8th, we have a book called Predatory Natures by Amy Goldsmith. Again, this is an author that I have never read from, and I will hesitate because it is a young adult book. But I have to say, this cover really drew me. These nature-y kind of horror fantasy type things have been calling my name lately. And this one says it is about a teen girl gets her dream job working on a luxury train. At first, the train is everything she expected. A 5-star escaped from her past, demanding customers and all. Sounds like she's kind of going through it. She's trying to reinvent herself and just like reset. But on the first night of her journey, the trip takes a strange turn when 2 mysterious carriages filled with an array of beautiful and rare plants are attached to the end of the train in the middle of the night. With them come a pair of siblings. Gwen and Gwydion are wealthy, Welsh, and alluring as they are odd, not to mention incredibly protective of their botanical cargo. The siblings claim the plants they are transporting are for research, yet Lara can't shake the feeling that there is something otherworldly about them, something that calls to her night after night, whispering in her dreams. So some plant / nature horror. I have recently read some nature horror that I've really been into, so this one is definitely on my list. The next one is coming out on the 15th. It's called The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is the author of Mexican Gothic. I did read this when everyone was freaking out about it, and it was just like an okay book for me. I know that's an unpopular opinion. It just yeah, it was probably like a 3-star read for me. But this one is about witches, and you know I love a good witch story. It already has 350 reviews and the rating is 4.29. I know sometimes when a popular author puts something out, then the beginning reviews are high, and that doesn't really reflect what it kind of evens out to in the end. This one is listed as horror, fantasy, historical fiction, gothic, and witches. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. I will probably wait until this one has some more reviews on it before I decide if I'm going to read it or not, but it's on my radar. On the 15th, we also have One Yellow Eye by Lee Radford. Again, another author that's different to me. And this one is listed as horror, sci-fi, dystopian. There's also a giveaway on Goodreads for this. And this is kind of taking the whole zombie story and changing it up a little bit. It looks like we have a British scientist who is married to a man who ends up getting infected with a virus that has left the city ravaged, and he is ill. So even though the government's like rounding up all these people that are infected, our main character, she hides her husband and she's trying to figure out what's going on and hopefully bring him back to life. That is dedication, because it's really only until death do us part, you guys. After that, you're on your own. Anyway, this one just sounds like it is a different take on this story that we've read many times before. And again, this one is like kind of in my maybe pile. So I'll see if anyone's talking about it. I'll probably check this one out from my library, but I liked the sciencey aspect of this one. On July 22nd, we have a new book by Paul Tremblay called Another. I have only read one Paul Tremblay book so far, but I really enjoyed it. This one sounded really interesting to me. I'm a little confused because they list this one as middle grade, young adult, paranormal fiction. I thought it was more of a coming of age. Oh, apparently it is middle grade. Okay, so it says when Casey Wilson's parents tell him his friend is coming over for a sleepover, he has no idea who that might be. Ever since the Zoom incident, everyone treats him like a pariah, and his tics are worse than ever. When Morrill appears, he's not like any friend Casey's ever met. His skin is like clay, and he doesn't speak. But Casey's parents are charmed by the strange kid, and it's nice to have someone to talk to besides his sister. Casey knows something is wrong with no end in sight to the sleepover. He's exhausted. And in the dark, out of the corner of his eye, Morrill doesn't look like a kid at all. I don't care if this is a middle grade. I am going to give it a shot. Sometimes I find these middle grade spooky stories better than adult stories, so I'm here for it. All right, the next one is also coming out on the 22nd, and this is a Cassandra Caw release called The Library at Hellebore. This is coming across as a dark academia fantasy book, and I have read Cassandra Caw before. Her writing is very flowery, and I had to look up many words, but I did still enjoy the experience overall. This one says that the Hellebore Technical Institute for the Gifted is a premier academy for the dangerous, world eaters, and apocalypse makers. It promises redemption, acceptance, and a normal life after graduation. At least that's what Alessa is told when she's kidnapped and forcibly enrolled in the school. But there's more to Hellebore than meets the eye. On graduation day, the faculty go on a ravenous rampage, feasting on Alessa's class. Only Alessa and a group of her classmates escape the carnage. They're trapped in the school's library, and they must offer a human sacrifice every night, or the school faculty will break down the door and kill everyone. That sounds like a fun time. I will probably wait for some reviews on this one as well, just to see what people are thinking before I pick it up. On the 22nd, we also have one called Negative Images by Rebecca Shear Akamalu. I'm really sorry don't know how to say that one. Again, another author I haven't heard of before, but this one had like a different take on ghosts that I thought was a little bit interesting. It says, we have our main character, Anita, and her husband suddenly passes away. While she's grieving, she finds herself haunted by his negative image, which is a new phenomenon where the deceased prey on the ones they loved in life, turning intimate memories into nightmares. He's using her past as a weapon and dismantling her friendships, career, and self-worth. Just a unique take, I think, on ghosts in general, and I think this one will be worth checking out. And the last one in July also comes out on the 22nd. This one is called Blood Slaves by Marcus Redmond. This one looks like we're taking a different take on vampires, and this one takes place before the Civil War, and it's on a plantation where we are following a slave that is trying to save himself and his family. It looks like that's where some African vampires come into play and try to flip the script and change history. And I think that idea sounds very interesting. I have read some of the reviews. The reviews are high, but there was someone that said there was a lot of violence that didn't necessarily need to be there. So I might wait a little bit, get a few more reviews before I check this out. But I think it sounds interesting, like an interesting take on vampires and kind of changing history. All right, moving on to August, I have 10 new releases for August to talk about. The first one coming out on the 5th is called Tantrum by Rachel Eve Moulton. This is a new to me author, and it looks like this is more of a novella. Look at this freaking cover. So this is about a woman who has a monster baby, and that's really all I needed to know. I do like some motherhood horror, and pregnancy and motherhood is such a weird experience that it's really fun to kind of go cosmic with it, and that's what this looks like. Again, a tentacle on a cover has never steered me wrong. Then on the 12th, we have 13 Months Haunted by Jimmy Giuliano. First of all, I might be in the minority, but I'm over this kind of cover. I'm over like the videotape cover. I felt like we had a string of them last year with like different horror movie, whatever. I'm kind of over these covers. But I did read Dead 11 by Jimmy Giuliano, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. That was a few years ago. And this one says it is about a new girl in 8th grade who won't touch any kind of technology, not even the computers in the library. Her mother also comes to school along with her every single day, refusing to leave her side and not even letting her use the restroom. Rumors have it that Avery's mom is a witch. Her sister and fathers were killed by something supernatural, a strange virus. Seeing how isolated and lonely Avery is, Piper befriends her, but quickly realizes it might just be the worst decision she's ever made, because there's something dark inside of Avery Wallace, and it's spreading. I just like the premise of this, and I like this author in the past, so I need to give that one a shot. And then also on the 12th is a new Hailey Piper release called A Game in Yellow. I just got approved for this arc, so I am excited to check it out. Hailey Piper, I have read a few books by her, and her mind is out there, man, like in the best way. The books never leave my mind, the ones that I've read, but I don't think that I fully understood them, but I still love them. So a lot of her stuff is kind of sci-fi, cosmic, and just really out there. This one says, kink-fixated couple Carmen and Blanca have been in a rut. That is until Blanca discovers enigmatic Smoke in an understreet drug den, who holds pages to a strange play, The King in Yellow. Read too much and you'll fall into madness, but read just a little and pull back, and it gives you the adrenaline rush of a survivor's euphoria, leading Carmen to fall into a game of lust at Nightmare's Edge. I'm a little scared of this one because I tried to read Brainworms, and there was a lot of similar themes here, and I had to DNF that one, but I will definitely give this one a shot because I have loved this author in the past. Another one coming out on the 12th has an amazing title, The House of Monstrous Women by Daphne Fama. Never heard of this author, but this title definitely sucked me in. And the blurb says, a young woman is drawn into a dangerous game after being invited to the maze-like home of her childhood friend, a rumored witch, in this gothic horror set in 1986 Philippines. In this game, there's only one rule: to survive. Love the trope of like a maze-like house. And I also think that the it taking place in the Philippines in this time period is going to be unlike anything I've ever read. So I'm definitely going to be checking this one out from my library when it's available. On the 12th, we also have a new release from Chuck Tingle. I have been waiting for more from this author, and I did get tickets to see an author event in August. So I'm hoping I get to go to that. This one's called Lucky Day. I absolutely loved Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. It was on my top 10 reads of last year. So I don't even really know what this is about or care because I was going to read it anyway. It says, Vera is a survivor of a global catastrophe known as the low probability event, but she definitely isn't thriving. Once a passionate professor of statistics, she no longer finds meaning in anything at all. But when problematic government agent Lane knocks on her door, she's the only one who can help him uncover the connection between deadly spates of absurdity and improbability. Lucky Casino. What's happening in Vegas isn't staying there, and the world is at risk for another disaster. When it comes to Chuck Tingle, the only thing more terrifying than a serious horror novel is an absurd one. I love the cover of this. It actually reminds me a lot of like a Chuck Palahniuk cover. Interested to read anything by Chuck Tingle. On the 12th, this one came up on my radar from watching someone else's video because it's not really a horror book, but it's called Too Old for This by Samantha Downing. This is more of a thriller mystery book, and it's basically about a woman who was a serial killer, and as you know, she got older, she retired, and she's just been hanging out, playing bingo, living, granny lifestyle when an investigator shows up on her doorstep asking questions about her past, specifically her involvement with numerous unsolved cases, and she just can't have that. Says getting away with murder is hard enough when you're young, and when Lottie receives another annoying knock on the door, she realizes this crime just might be the death of her. It reminds me of a book I read by Deanna Rayburn a few years ago called Women of a Certain Age, which actually I think there's a sequel to now. I enjoy the old lady thing. I enjoy having something to look forward to in life, and that is being an old woman with a shady past. This next book is giving me the eyes are the best part vibes. It's called What Hunger by Catherine Dang. This one also comes out on the 12th. And the blurb says, a haunting coming of age tale following the daughter of Vietnamese immigrants, Ronnie Nguyen, as she grapples with the weight of generational trauma while navigating the violent power of teenage girlhood. For fans of Jennifer's Body and Little Fires Everywhere. Her parents taught her that meat was a dangerous luxury, a symbol of survival that should never be taken for granted. Her sense of self and understanding of her family are shattered. A few nights later, at her first high school party, a boy crosses the line and Ronnie is overtaken by a force larger than herself. This newfound power comes with an insatiable hunger for raw meat, a craving that is both a saving grace and a potential destroyer. It says it is a visceral emotional journey through the bursts and pitfalls of female rage. Sold right there, sold. On the 19th, we have another nonfiction book from Sadie Hartman coming out called Feral and Hysterical, Mother Horror's Ultimate Reading Guide to Dark and Disturbing Fiction by Women. It's like this book was made just for me. Sadie Hartman, also known as Mother Horror on Instagram. You should really check out her Instagram if you aren't already following it. But she is one of the co-owners of Nightworms, which is the monthly package of horror subscription that I get every month and I love. She did put out a nonfiction book called 101 Horror Books to Read Before You're Murdered. And it looks like this is very similar to that, but make it women writers only and female rage. It says it's got 5 new essays from Alma Katsu, Alexis Henderson, Christina Henry, Ray Knowles, Laura Purcell, as well as over 200 recommendations into reading lists based on different subgenres like gothic, sporer, just fun themes, and a way to make a listing of books that will be fun to go through and see what I've read and what I need to read still. So I'm looking forward to this one. I'm hoping / guessing that this will come out in a future Nightworms package as her last book did. Speaking of kick-ass women in writing, we have on the 19th a new Anya Alborn book called The Unseen. I have read several by Anya Alborn, and Some I've liked more than others, but Brother was a 5-star read for me, and so I will always check out whatever she puts out. Isla Hansen, a mother reeling from a devastating loss, is beside herself when a mysteriously orphaned child appears on the outskirts of the Hansens' secluded Colorado property. Although strange and unexplainable, the child's presence breathes new life into Isla. But as the child settles in, Isla's husband Luke and their 5 children notice peculiarities that hint at something far beyond the ordinary. Anomalies that challenge the very fabric of reality itself. The tension within the Hansen household grows, and with it, a sense that there's something very wrong with the new kid in the house. Like I said, Anya Allborn, that's all I needed to know to check this one out. And last in August, on the 26th, is a middle grade book, but it caught my eye. It's called The Dark Times of Nimble Nottingham by Ryan James Black. It says it's perfect for fans of Lockwood and Company. I own those books and haven't read them, but I did start to watch that television show and it seemed pretty interesting. So this one says, set during World War II, we follow a 12-year-old orphan who accidentally unleashes a shadow monster into the streets of London and must team up with an unlikely assembly of allies to hunt it down. I will definitely have to keep my eye out for this one to check out from my library. And that is August, so moving on to September, I have 16 books here and I had to pare this down. The most of the releases were coming out in September. The first September release is coming out on the 2nd, and this is by an author that I have really enjoyed, so automatically makes my list. But then also, I did just get approved for an ARC for this from NetGalley, so thank you so much to NetGalley or whoever approved this because I'm excited. And that is Breathe In, Bleed Out by Brian McCauley. By the way, I cannot say the title of this without like singing it to Machine Head by Bush, which I don't even listen to. On top of Candy Cane Kills, Brian McCauley also wrote Curse of the Reaper, which I really loved, and I would reread that book. So this one is about Hannah, who has been running from her demons ever since she emerged from a harrowing wilderness trip without her fiancé. No one knows exactly what happened the day Ben died, and Hannah would like to keep it that way, even if his ghost still haunts her with vivid wakened nightmares that are ruining her life. So when her friend group gets an exclusive invitation to a restorative spiritual retreat in Joshua Tree, Hannah reluctantly agrees in search of a fresh start. Despite her skepticism, Hannah soon finds herself healing through yoga, sound baths, and hot springs. But in this peaceful journey of self-discovery, she quickly descends into a violent fight for self-preservation when a mysterious killer starts picking off retreat attendees in increasingly gruesome ways. As the body count rises and Hannah's sanity frays, she'll have to confront her dark past and uncover the true nature of the ruthless monster hell-bent on killing her vibe for good. Sounds like a little slashery fun. I'm into it. On the 2nd, we also have one called A Blood as Bright as the Moon by Andrea Morstabilini. Can we just take a moment to appreciate this cover? I mean, come on. Ambrose, a young vampire, lives a life secreted away from modern world with the rest of his clan, all of them under the spell of the charismatic Regina, who spins stories of salvation for their kind. Their grand plan? To build makeshift wings and fly to the moon where a safe haven awaits for all vampires. But Ambrose harbors a secret. He's not ready to abandon Earth, and he's in contact with a human who believes he can be saved. As the rest of his kind prepare to flee their home, Ambrose is torn between loyalties. However, something else is on the horizon. A group with sinister plans for vampires are closing in, and if Ambrose isn't careful, he could find himself right at the center of a terrifying and mysterious experiment. I definitely was drawn in by the cover, and I will stay for the vampires. But this one I will definitely be checking out from my library. This next one is just kind of funny release that's probably only going to come out on Kindle if I am guessing right. This is also coming out in the 2nd. It is called Shit Show by Chris Panettiere. It says latrine technician versus dark carnival. Yep. After his mother is diagnosed with dementia, Sunday McWhorter, come on, needs a job with flexible hours and a company vehicle. It just so happens that the local porta potty company is hiring. The job stinks. Wah, wah. But it's a solid paycheck that allows Sunday to take care of his mom. Everything goes smoothly until autumn and the beginning of the county fair season, when people start going missing and body parts are being found inside the very tanks of the porta potty. Sunday is charged with cleaning. Is there a serial killer, a human trafficking ring, an epidemic of haunted toilets? Sunday finds out the hard way with the simple job of vacuuming sewages becomes a tussle between worlds. It just sounds so ridiculous and summery and fun. Yes, I'm immature. On the 9th, we have a new release by Neil Sharpson. This one is definitely an author that I wanted to follow up with because I read Knock Knock Open Wide. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. This is an Irish writer who likes to incorporate Irish folklore into his stories, and this one is no different. The synopsis is a little confusing, but it says it's about an eerily quiet island off the coast of Ireland and a woman with no memory clawing her way out of her grave and back into life. But not everyone welcomes the return of Mara Fitch. Sounds like this island has a terrible secret, and she returns to her life on this upside down island. Her memories start to come back to her, and the more she remembers, the more the village will do anything to stop her. I really enjoyed the last one he wrote, and I will be checking this one out for sure. On the 9th, we also have a new novella release by Shortwave Press called The Extra by Annie Neugebauer. A very short synopsis just says, 10 people head out on a backpacking trip, but the first night when they set up camp, there's 11 of them there. Everyone remembers someone else. So who's the extra? Who's the extra person? How'd they get there? What are they doing? Are they human? What is happening? Just the fact that it's left so open-ended has me curious, and now I need to know. On the 9th, we have a new release from Delilah S. Dawson called The House of Idol. I hope I'm saying that right. I have yet to read a book from Delilah S. Dawson, and I plan on doing it, so I'll probably read those before this one. Maybe I was confusing this one and the Craig DeLuey book, My Ex the Antichrist, because this one is about a band and a cult, and apparently there's also really a unicorn in this book. So I do plan on reading this one, but I will probably check out Bloom first or some of her other books. Then on the 9th, we also have Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. Rachel Harrison is also like an automatic buy for me, or at least to check out this book. I have read Cackle and Such Sharp Teeth, and I really enjoyed them. I still have to read Black Sheep and The Return, which are sitting on my shelves. I did read So Thirsty, which was her release last year, and that one was just okay for me, but I really did love the other ones. So I'm always gonna check out her stuff. She seems to write more like about feminine relationships, whether friendships or sisterhood or mother-daughter relationships or relationships with oneself, but then incorporates horror elements into it. So I do really enjoy what she does. This one says it is about, it's got some buzzwords that kind of turn me off, because it says that the main character leads a picture-perfect life as a stylist and influencer. I hate the word influencer. I hate influencers in general. That's like, I don't want to read about that. Beneath the glossy veneer, she harbors a not so glamorous secret. She grew up in a haunted house. Well, not haunted, possessed. After her parents' messy divorce, her mother moved her and her sisters to a house occupied by a demon, or so she claims. But that's not what her sisters remember or what the courts determined when they stripped Alex of custody after she went off the deep end. But Alex was insistent, and she even wrote a book about her experience in the house. After Alex's sudden death, the supposedly possessed house gets passed to Cleo and her sisters. Where her sisters see childhood trauma, Cleo sees an opportunity for house flipping content. Only as the home makeover process begins, she discovers there may be some truth to her mother's claims. As memories resurface and Cleo reads her mother's book, the presence in the house becomes more real, more sinister, revealing ugly truths that threaten to shake Cleo's beautiful life to its very foundation. Don't love the influencer aspect, but I do like the idea of childhood trauma and how that someone might remember that as being haunted or possessed, and just all of that negative energy, how that could possibly fester as like a demon within this house. So I definitely want to check this one out. There's also a new release coming from Eric LaRocca on the 9th, and this one looks like it's going to be the start of a trilogy. It's called Burnt Sparrow, We Are Always Tender with Our Dead. I am not sure about how I feel about Eric LaRocca's writing or his book so far. I really loved some of what I read, and then I've heard some not so great things about other books that I haven't read yet myself. So the jury's out on this one, but it says it's Michael McDowell's Blackwater meets Clive Barker's The Great and Secret Show, and this disturbing first installment of a new trilogy of intense, visceral, beautifully written queer horror set in a small New England town. So I will be checking this out, but I do want to read some of the other stuff by this author that I already own. On the 16th, we also have something called Bad Things Happened in This Room by Marie Still. And this one is a psychological horror about a woman named Willow who cannot tell if she's truly a prisoner of her own home or of her mind. And I like the idea of this psychological horror. So I will probably wait and see what more people are saying. Right now it has really high ratings on Goodreads. Like I said, that could change, but I do want to check that one out. On the 16th, we also have a new one from Alma Katsu called Fiend. This is about a very successful / wealthy family where everything just seems to go their way. Their rivals suffer strokes, or inconvenient buildings catch on fire. Earthquakes happen to swallow up harmful evidence. Everything always seems to work out for this family. The father always has told his children, hey, we're just blessed, right? But when things stop going as planned and the family blessing starts looking more like a curse, the family begins to splinter, each hatching their own secret scheme. They didn't get to be one of the richest families in the world without spilling a little blood, but this time it might be their own. Rich people turning on each other? Check. On the 16th, we also have one from Sam Rebeline, who wrote Edenville, which I really enjoyed. Again, I don't know if I fully understood it, but parts of that still live in my brain. This one's called Galloway's Gospel, and it takes place in the same town, or the Renfield County, that his other story took place in. So it kind of seems like his writing revolves around this town where all this weird stuff happens. This one, it says it tells the story of two Rachels, one who mistakenly starts a cult at our local high school and one who tries to dismantle it 10 years later. I'm in. Everything that he writes seems to very off the beaten path, just kind of strange, and I'm into it. On the 16th, there is a short story collection. There was a million short story collections coming out in this season, but I had to mention this one because it's Haley Piper, and the title of it is Teenage Girls Can Be Demons. Love the title. Love Haley Piper. This one says it's got 13 coming of rage stories. So I might have to break my not reading short stories just to get this one in. On the 23rd, we have one called Slashed Beauties by A. Rushby. I do like the cover of this one as well. It says it's a gothic feminist body horror in 2 timelines revolving around 3 anatomical Venuses, which are ultra-realistic wax figures of women that come to life at night and murder men who have wronged them. Do I need to know anything more? No, I don't. I really don't. Yeah, this one I must read. Coming out on the 23rd is a book I don't plan on checking out, but I think a lot of you will be interested in. It is a sequel to The Beloved Bunny by Mona Awad. For me personally, I didn't know what to make of that book. I might have to reread it. I know that I didn't like all the parts that had to do with the character being in writing class in college. I felt like there was a lot going on that I just didn't understand because I didn't go to that type of university where people acted like that. So I really just couldn't connect with that part. But this is called We Love You, Bunny by Mona Awad. I have mixed feelings about this, but since I'm not a huge fan of the first story, I don't think my opinion really matters. I didn't think that this story needed a sequel. I think it sits well as it is, but if it can actually add to the story and it's not just a cash grab, then yay, okay? I think a lot of you guys will be into it, even if it's not for me. I just wanted to mention it. All right, we have just 2 more. One of them I've already read and reviewed, but I wanted to mention again on the 30th from Philip Fracassi, because he's one of my favorite authors, is The Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre. I really enjoyed this. This was a 4-star read for me. I bet that it would probably be even higher for others. I just kind of hold this author to a higher standard at this point. But we have a slasher in a retirement home with a kick-ass older female character, Rose Dubois. If I can remember a character's not only their first name but their last name, that's that means that struck a chord with me. So I really enjoyed this one. I will link that review down below in case you want to check it out, but I highly recommend checking this one out. And my last book on my list is coming out on the 30th. It's called The Witch of Willow Sound by Vanessa F. Penny. I do like this cover, so that is part of it. This one, the blurb says, for readers of Our Wives Under the Sea and the Once and Future Witches comes a feminist gothic tale with a tough as nails female protagonist who must find her elderly aunt, long suspected of being a witch. A spooky, atmospheric, and fast-paced feminist tale about women called witches and the parts of our history we'd rather forget. You know I love me a witchy tale. You know I love me a tough as nails female protagonist. And I have not heard of this author before, but I do want to check this one out. And September is like the perfect time for those witchy gothic vibes. All right, that's a lot of books to check out. And we're not even done with the year. I still have books from the first half of the year that I need to get to that came out. So please let me know down below if you've read any of these as ARCs, if you recommend or don't recommend any of them. Let me narrow my list down a little bit. And I just want to thank you guys for sitting through all of this with me. It really just helps me focus. It's all about me. No, I want to get some book titles out there, obviously, but I also like to help kind of concentrate on which ones that I'm really into and put holds in my library. So this really helps me get focused and organized. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay spooky.